What is up, fight fans? I am Jason Burgos for Ringside Intel, here to go over the results for the GFL draft. The first one, if you don't know the GFL is a new MMA league called the Global Fight League, and it has some similarities to leagues you know, and then something a little different. Now, it's what it's most similar to is the PFL, Professional Fighters League, where it's a season format. However, instead of being individualized, it's a team-based thing. So that's why this past Friday, they had their first ever PFL fighter draft. Now, some more background. They have multiple divisions. They're going to have heavyweight, light heavyweight, middleweight, welterweight, lightweight, featherweight, and bantamweight in the men's. And then in the women's side, they're going to have bantamweight, strawweight, atomweight. And they have to fill out these rosters. They're going to, for different teams. Now, they're going to have 6 different teams. They're going to have a team in Dubai, Los Angeles, London, Miami, Sao Paulo, Brazil, and New York. And this is had a lot of interest in it because everybody's, so many fight fans or sports fans, so they're used to the NFL draft, the NBA draft, and it's a big deal. So this is the first ever fighter draft for the various different teams. So here we're going to go over the results and we're going to kind of review it. Who won this draft? Because we see that a lot with ESPN reviewing who won the NFL draft and all that kind of stuff. So let me switch my screen here. And as you see on my left, this is the results for Team Dubai. Team Dubai had the first picks in each round. There were 20 different rounds. It's a ton of fighters. And what's so interesting about the GFL is, again, it's gained a lot of attention. There's a ton of big name fighters. Now, a lot of them are well past their prime and they're well aged and gray beards, but it's a roster that has a lot of names that are familiar to casual fans. So let's go over here. This is the Team Dubai draft results for all 21. As you see, the team manager is UFC legend, former heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez, and his coach at ATT, Javier Mendez, the same guy that's coached Luke Rockhold, Cormier, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Islam Makhachev, so many great fighters. Now, they had Tyron Woodley. They made Tyron Woodley their top pick. Okay, fine. He's a big name. You got Abubakar Nurmagomedov, who's the cousin of Khabib. Derek Brunson's on the team. Ali Isaev, former PFL, the first ever PFL heavyweight champion. You got Amari Akhmedov, solid veteran for UFC. Hani Marquez, he's in PFL. He was also in UFC. Timur Valiev. Arlene Blenkow, very solid former Bellator veteran. Let's see who else we got here. Jessica Aguiar, solid fighter. Todd Duffy. Todd Duffy's still around, still fighting. Makes sense. He was round 17 pick. That's fair based on what he's done in his career in the last bunch of years. But solid draft. Decent. Some good picks from Dubai. Let's move on to Team Los Angeles. As you can see, Team Los Angeles is led by manager Vanderlei Silva, another UFC legend, Pride legend. He also has his longtime coach, Rafael Cordeiro, who might be familiar to some people. He was the guy who also has coached Mike Tyson in his last 2 fights. They made Sage Northcutt their number 1 pick. Now, I'm sure a lot of you longtime fans are like, Sage Northcutt, you got all these big names. Sage Northcutt is your first pick. Well, if you factor in that a lot of the best fighters here are older fighters, there's a lot of lower name fighters. They might be good, but not experienced. Sage Northcutt's not really a bad pick because he's kind of right in his prime. He's still fairly young. Remember, he started in the UFC very young. So he actually might be pretty good in the GFL, and factoring that they do points-based systems, sort of just like the PFL and wins, and he might be able to get some finishes. He might go far and end up in the year-end tournament, the semifinals and that stuff. Not a terrible pick. Aspen Ladd, you all know her from UFC, solid pick. A lot of you may have just realized this. Tony Ferguson is no longer, he's officially gone from the UFC. But he's not retired, unfortunately, and he is now in the GFL. He was their 3rd pick. Uriah Faber, the 4th pick. I thought Uriah was done. I didn't even realize until the draft, and I followed GFL and seen the roster. Didn't go through every single guy, but Uriah Faber has been drafted. Interesting. Big name. Again, big name. Maybe he's not as good as he used to be, but he's still a big name. Ilima McFarlane, longtime star of Bellator, former champion there. Chad Mendez, who's been very busy with BKFC. Andrei Arlovsky. Lorenz Larkin, that's another good one. Later round pick. He's still kind of maybe just leaving his prime, but still a good fighter. He was very good in Bellator. Jessica Panay, rock solid. Grant Niels, former Bellator veteran. Rashad Evans, yeah, long in the tooth. He's gonna be fighting Rampage Jackson in a boxing match soon. But again, big name, former UFC champion, Hall of Famer type. Cynthia Calvillo, late round pick. If Cynthia Calvillo can get her act together, be in the right division, get her weight situation together, she's a good fighter. She's still in prime years. Leslie Smith, older name, but solid. Frank Mir, understandably late round pick, but again, you get a name right there. Ray Borg, really nice pick. He's still a good fighter in his prime. Again, same kind of thing, injuries, weight, that can be, rectified. Tyler Diamond, solid. I tell you, Los Angeles, Vanderlei, Rafael Cordeiro, good job. Moving on from there, let's look at the results for Team London's pick. Luke Barnett and Carl Prince are leading that group. They made Gegard Mousasi their top pick. Good pick. He's still, he's past his prime, but he's still a good fighter even now. Alexander Gustafsson, interesting. He might, there's certain fighters like a Tony Ferguson, Alexander Gustafsson, if they're not in the UFC any longer and the top competition level comes down, they might be able to find that fountain of youth and they might rack up a couple wins and things could be interesting for them. Brett Johns, okay. Julie Budd, former Bellator champion, solid one. Alir Latifi, good one, good ad. Benson Henderson, another UFC legend, Hall of Famer type. Again, past his best years, but still a solid fighter even now. Danny Roberts, a good pick. Norton Park. Pani Kianzad, former Ultimate Fighter winner. That's a solid name. She's still in good years. Tanner Bolzer, solid, good veteran. Heavyweight. That's the biggest names from London's picks, but it's a solid roster. As you see, a lot of Europeans and stuff like that. They're kind of going with that thing. You'll see that later in Sao Paulo's picks. Okay, solid London. Moving on from there, let's go to Miami. Miami is led by Thiago Alves, former UFC star, one-time title challenger, and Conan Silveria, very good coach who's been down in Florida coaching a lot of stars for years. So that's a great pick for that team. They made Junior Dos Santos, who's Conan's, that's his guy. So, of course, Junior's the number one pick. All right, fine. I don't know if I would have went Junior number one, but okay. Anthony Pettis is the number two. Yoel Romero. Okay, we all know Yoel Romero is like 1,000 years old, but he's still good. He's still a good addition for them, and he might do some damage in this. Who knows? Felipe Lins, a former PFL champion, heavyweight champion, that's good at. Paige Van Zandt. Sure. If again with the competition level dropped, and she's not doing BKFC anymore, which she clearly wasn't great at. She's a wrestler, always has been. Maybe she gets in this and she does well. And again, name value. That's a big name. That's a good name to have for the company. You got Kat Zingano, former title challenger, solid. Marlon Moraes, way past his prime. This is probably his last run at MMA to see what he can do. Hector Lombard's always dangerous. Again, like you're way into long in the tooth, but with his power, always dangerous. Charles Rose is a good solid fighter. Jeremy Stevens is about to main event Knucklemania 5 against Eddie Alvarez, so that's a good name to have. His name visor. Hannah Goldie's always been a solid fighter in UFC. And Gleison Tebow, that was their final pick. I mean, it's the final pick. Gleison Tebow, he's got thousands of fights, it seems like, but in this league, he might be a solid addition. He's a good depth guy to have in a team format. So Miami, pretty good job. Kudos to Thiago Alves, Conan Silveria. I think they did a pretty good job with their draft. Moving on from there, let's look at Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo is led by UFC great Lyoto Machida and Andre Pederneiras, the great coach of Shootbox and Aldo and Vanderlei Silva earlier. Great coach. Another good coach to see in this league. Their number one pick, Fabricio Verdum. Okay, probably would have been my first pick, but he's still dangerous at this at this point in his career. He didn't do great in PFL, but maybe in this run he does something good. Douglas Lima, I like that pick. Yeah, Douglas is past his best days, but he's still a good fighter. Always was one of the best fighters that never went to the UFC. Disappointed to not see him go to UFC, but happy for him that he got released from PFL. He can maybe do this and really have a career resurgence. Vivian Pajeda, Julio Arce, solid UFC veteran. Mauricio Shogun, who he maybe could have picked him later, but fine. Maybe he gets moments, but he's another one that's what passes his best days. Henan Barao, Lucas Martins, Patricky Pitbull. That's a nice pick. Patricio's brother. Patricio got out of his deal. Looks like Patricio's got out of his deal. Solid ad for that late in the draft. I maybe would have went and got him early. He's still kind of just leaving his prime, but a good pick. Uh, Alex Oliveira, Rafael Sunsets, another nice pick late in the fight. Yeah, his best days are behind him, but he still was even very good in the UFC just a few years ago. He was still a guy making his way up the bantamweight rankings. Solid draft by Sao Paulo. As you can see, they went heavy Brazilian, understandable, but if there's a comfort level and guys succeed and perform better under that, fine. Moving on to the last team, New York, who even now, surprisingly, still does not have a manager. Surprise. Maybe Chris Weidman becomes a player manager, but the coach is Ray Longo. Can't have any better of a coach that's leading the New York team. Perfect pick, Ray Longo. Maybe Ray Longo's a manager coach. Their first pick, Kevin Lee. As my Scrap Report co-host would probably like this, I'm surprised Kevin Lee's a first pick, but again, he started his career in UFC. In this kind of setup, he might have a career resurgence and do great. He's kind of just in prime or just leaving his prime years. So compared to everybody else, he's got a leg up on a lot of people. So he's probably going to be an early favorite in this league in the lightweight division. We'll see. Chris Weidman, I'm sure a lot of you thought he was done. He made an announcement he was retired from the UFC, but clearly he's retired from the UFC, but not from fighting. He's still fighting, and he's going to be in this league with Ray Longo. Yeah, fine. Maybe he does some damage. I don't have high hopes for him. Unfortunately, I wished he would retire, but that's on him. Holly Holmes, their third pick. That's an interesting pick. Yeah, she's nowhere near as good as she once was, but she's still a dangerous fighter. Always been in fantastic shape. If she's in fantastic shape, she has a chance. She might be able to go far in the season. It's a good pick for them. Kai Kamaka, solid. Ovin St. Preux, long in the tooth, but okay, solid name. Philip Hawes, that's a good addition. He's still in good years, so he's got big power, great athlete, good wrestler. That might be an interesting dark horse to go far in the middleweight division. Lance Palmer, 2-time PFL champion, good fighter. That's another great depth addition. Naaman Gracie, that's a really good one, especially that far in the draft, as well as Sidney Outlaw. Two good names, solid. They're still in good years. They could do damage in this league. Alexei Olenek, is he going to be a dangerous fighter? He's like 55. He's just, with his grappling, that's the kind of fighter he is. Jim Rivera, another solid one. Alan Belcher, okay, interesting. Been doing mostly BKFC. Dylan Danis, we got Dylan Danis in the GFL, people. We'll see how that goes. If he even fights, if he does fight, this really might, help his career and take him back to some relevancy. B. Nguyen, one championship veteran, she's a solid addition. And, that's pretty much the most, that's everything that the Team New York drafted. In review, when you're going through this, I'm a big fan of what of Los Angeles, their draft. I think they did a great job. Miami, I think they did a very good job. New York, I think did a very good job. If I'm gonna pick who I felt probably won the draft, I think I'll probably go with Los Angeles, mainly because I like their coach, one of the best coaches in the MMA still. But I can see Tony Ferguson maybe doing something in this. I think Sage Northcutt may surprise a lot of people. Uriah Faber, he might surprise too. He's always in ridiculous shape, always a fantastic athlete. Lee Malane McFarland's always been a good fighter. Uriah Hall, I think, still good. Chad Menace, Lorenz Larkins, I like that pick. Rashad, we'll see. Ray Borg, I like that pick. Cynthia Calvillo, again, that's another dark horse. I can see her doing some good things. If I had to go to second, who did the second best? Maybe I'll go New York. I could see Kevin Lee being good in this. Holly Holm, I think, could see being dangerous. Philip Hawes, I like that. I think he can really do some damage. Lance Palmer has some lead left in the pencil. Gracie, Outlaw, I think those are all great late round picks. But those are the results from the first ever GFL draft. Those are my reviews on who I think did the best. Who do you think did the best in the first ever GFL draft? And who are you surprised that ended up getting drafted to this new league?